Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good day. Today I'm doing a reading about Dolly Parton. She just died in August 25th, 2026. And she was born January 19th, 1946 in Tinman Center, Tennessee. She was 80. She was married to Carlo Thomas Dean from 1966 to 2025 till she passed away. And she had, I think she had 10 siblings, and she was 5 feet. And her full name is Donna Rebecca Parton. So I'm going to do a reading about her. I really respected Dolly Parton. I was sad to hear that she died. So I'm going to do a reading. So can you tell me, Dolly Parton, were you really poor? Like she says, was she really poor? I'm using my regular cards and my different oracle ones. So was she really poor when she said she lived in a 2 cabin? I guess she had an outhouse, and had her parents had one room, and then the kids slept in the family room or living room or something. So was she really poor, as she said? I don't think she would be lying, but I'm just saying, some people exaggerate things. They say things that to make it more. I don't know. Did she live really in too poor and live in a shack? Please tell me. Was Dolly Parton and lived in a two house cabin shack in Tennessee? Yeah, she did. She lived in it. And I'll do 3. I'll do 4. She had courage, leaving when she was 18, right out of high school. She wanted to move out. She had courage. She didn't want to be poor. She wanted to make so she did move. She did live in a shack or two, and she set boundaries, like her parents set boundaries. You can only do this. You have to finish high school. You can't just drop out of school. You have to do stuff. So her parents set boundaries on her, which is good. And she had stamina when she worked hard. She was a really good hard worker. She was Capricorn. She cared about her family, her brothers, her sisters, her parents. She cared about her family and their well-being. So I think she took care of them in later life. And she had some traditions with her family. I think she was religious. Christmas, Thanksgiving probably was very important to her. Birthdays, anniversaries were very important to her. But there are arguments. Family always has, especially living in a 2 cabin. You fight, you can't be siblings without fighting, or parents without fighting on the siblings. They fight, because they were in poverty. They didn't have a lot of money, so yeah. And there was a lot of burdens having 10 kids. He had to look for jobs. Probably sometimes he might have had to go out of town, or he tried not to go out of town, but sometimes you probably have to go out of town because there was a burden because he had 10 kids. That's a lot of responsibility to have 10 kids and feeding them and finding food and clothing and stuff like that. And she wanted to escape. She wanted to leave. She didn't want to stay in this part of Tennessee. This part of it. She wanted to escape. She tried to make excuses. I want to leave. I want to find myself. She had joy and laughter when she was growing up. She had a good time with her siblings and her parents and her family and friends. She reflected. In some of her songs, she reflects back to her childhood with that dress with many patches, and yeah. And I think she did have some bitterness, not having enough food to eat and better education, or had enough money, for food, clothing, and stuff. I think she was a little angry about it. Who wouldn't be as a kid or a teenager, not having enough food, wearing clothes that hand-me-downs. She probably wore hand-me-down if she had sisters and stuff. So she probably had some upsetness, you know. All right. So she did live in. She was poor and she lived in a shack. Did she really meet her husband when she was 18? Did she really meet her husband, Dean, uh, when she was 18? Did they really meet at 18? Outside of a dry cleaner. Did they really meet there? I'll say that. Did they really meet there? I don't think she would make it up, but like I said, entertainment purposes. Um, it was a creative opportunity, them meeting and together. You know, they did meet. They were creative because she was starting out. She moved to Nashville and she wanted an opportunity of, you know, meeting this good-looking guy and having a relationship. So yeah, she was it was a happy surprise. So she did meet him when she was 18, and it was a happy surprise. She was balanced. She was a balanced person who had her feet planted. You know, she found purpose with him. She was happy with him. Uh, she wanted to have wealth too. She wanted to be a songwriter, make money. Uh, you know, and she had a long-term goals to make money and give back to children because she didn't have children, and give back to her family and her friends. And lack of direction. Sometimes when she was first getting married, when she was very young, she didn't know what she wanted to do. She wanted to be a singer, but she didn't know how to go about it. She lacked direction. Like she wasn't sure how Dolly Parton was going to. Maybe they did have conflict in their marriage. You know, all married, especially at 18, and I think he was 20 or 21. He was a little older than her, and you know, they did have disagreements. What married couple wouldn't? All right. Is it true that Dolly Parton was she not be able to have kids? Was it her that she couldn't have kids? You know, was she not be able to have kids? You know how some people can't have kids. Is it true that she couldn't have kids? Is it true that she couldn't, you know, have children? Was she, you know, she couldn't have children? Could Dolly not have children? Please tell me, can Dolly not have children? It says she was withdrawn, not having children. She was a little upset about it, and she tried to think of the best chaos. Maybe there was problems trying to conceive. Maybe she was having trouble trying to have children. Maybe she had miscarriages and didn't want people to know, or she just couldn't have children. You know, she was stressed out the thought of having kids because she'd rather have her career. So maybe that made her partly, I don't know if that, I'm not a doctor, maybe she didn't have children, maybe the stress of wanting children. Having a career, sorry, having a career is more important than her. So she had to make choices, you know, either kids or career. I know some people have both, but she wanted to, you know, put her stamp in the world with just a career. She wanted to give the money to children, even though she couldn't have children of her own. She'd give books to kids. She made money to give to kids. She was very generous to kids. She wanted, even though she didn't have kids of her own, she probably had a lot of nieces and nephews, cousins. So she gave money to charities. She was a very giving, kind person. Like I said, she was blocked. She didn't decided not to have kids. She couldn't have it, so she decided she thought she was a little learning from failure. She learned from failure, like she can't have kids, so she's gonna do the second best thing: be a great aunt, be a great role model for kids. So she had a backup plan. She tried to be fair and make amends. She made amends that she couldn't have kids. So, like I said, so she tried her best to be a great role model, like I said, be a great aunt. So, yeah, like I said, it was blocked. She couldn't have kids, so she couldn't um, ask. She couldn't have kids. I'll ask. Look, uh, romance. She tried to be romantic with her husband, because she couldn't have kids, so she tried to make up for that. Uh, it was confused because she could have adopted if she wanted. She had a lot of money. She could have adopted if she was confused. Information. Maybe she thought of maybe having information. Maybe adopting children. Maybe she thought of doing that, but she would have been detached to them because she'd be traveling all over the world, being a country singer, and she would be detached. She wouldn't be able to see them as much as she wanted, and she doesn't want to be a mother like that. And she was depressed, not having children, but she got over it, and she thought she was sad. In the beginning, she was sad that she couldn't have children, She was upset at first that she couldn't have kids, and she felt like a failure, not having. And I think all right, I'm going to ask, was it her husband, she couldn't conceive, maybe he had something. Did he have problems, he couldn't help her have children too? Because sometimes it's both of them or just her. Was he, infertile too? Both of them infertile, I'll say. Was he infertile to give kid, couldn't he not, have children, to his, Dean? Could he not have children? Because they talk about that. Did he not be able to, decide, he couldn't do it? He couldn't, have his little friends come up and help her? Please tell me. It's warm in here. And I think it's in the 70s or in the 80s, and it's the end of August. All right. Did he have trouble, helping her conceive? Having the little buggers come. That wanted to come. All right. There were choices. Could he have children? They were thinking about having children. I don't know how much the technology in the 60s they had for checking out if you can have children back in the 60s and the 70s. What the technology is to see about your sperm and your eggs. His stuff. And there were choices. He could have adopted. They could have adopted, but they didn't do that. It says maybe he couldn't. Strength. He was a strong guy. He was smart. He was, vigorous. He was good conviction. He was focused. He could, if he wanted kids, he probably could do it, or he would definitely adopt. There was disharmony. I think he was kind of depressed that they couldn't have kids in the beginning when they were younger. They were kind of depressed, and he thought he was working alone. Like maybe he wanted the kids more than she did, and he had to work alone of the idea of having children. Maybe he wanted it more than she did. All right, translation. Exit. I guess the idea was either stay married to her or with not having children, or he might have left. Wow. Okay, he wanted to he wanted to heal. He didn't want to worry about not having children and leave because he didn't want the marriage to end if he couldn't have children. They were afraid that they would fight and have disagreements about not able. So he was upset. I think he was more upset than she. I'm going to look that up. Was he more upset than she was that they couldn't have kids? Was he more upset than she? Was he more upset than she was when they couldn't have kids? Or were they equal? I'll say, were they equally upset that they couldn't have kids? I'll put it like that. Ugh. Were they both equally upset that they both couldn't have kids? Uh, all right, I'll read this. They were lazy about it. They didn't really work too hard about trying to find a way to adopt children or have kids. It wasn't like the top priority. I think her being a musician was more important. And lack of consideration. They didn't really. She didn't consider his feelings. Which, don't get mad at me. That's what it says. Lack of communication. They didn't really care about thought of it, so don't get mad. Love. They loved each other though. They'd rather be happy together without having children, without having problems conceiving kids. So they decided we're not going to have fighting problems because of not be able to have kids. We'll just be together and maybe have pets and just leave it at that. And they started new beginnings. They were happy with, they just accept the idea of not having kids and started a new beginning. She would have a career and he would be in the background because he didn't want anybody. There was heartbreak, like I said, they couldn't have kids. He was more heartbroken than her. They said they both were upset. It hurt them, and they both felt betrayed and angry that they couldn't have kids. But they used time management to be together when they could and have happy times. Now I'll do 3 cards. Bible. I'll do 3. All right. They're very disciplined people. Both Dolly Parton and his husband are very disciplined people. And he's sort of like a father figure to her, was sort of like a father figure to her in some ways. Some narcissistic traits in them. Both of them have hidden narcissistic traits. You don't have to be a full narcissistic person. You can have it. We all have some narcissistic traits in them. Some people have more than others, and some people will fool on. When you become a Hollywood or singer, a country singer or something, you might get a little bit of swelled head. She was generally a good person, but people do have some narcissistic traits. Like I said, me, my husband, people have narcissistic traits. Some have more than others, and some people are full-edged narcissistic. I don't want to go off track, but they do, And she was frugal with, he was very frugal. He wanted to be frugal with the money. And she cared about her looks. She had a lot of breast enlargements, and she liked to take care of herself. Having wearing a lot of makeup. Face. I don't know if she had any facelift. I'll look that up. Did she ever have any facelifts? Did she ever have facelifts, Dolly Parton? Did she ever have a facelifts? Did she ever have a facelift? Did Dolly Parton have a facelift? Tell me. Did Dolly Parton have a facelift? Tell me. Did she ever have a facelift? Did she ever have a facelift? Dolly Parton. Tell me. Did she ever have a facelift? Dolly Parton. A lot of people in Hollywood or Nashville or New York get facelifts. It's part of, to stay young. The only way I'd ever have a facelift is if I was in a serious car accident to do reconstruction surgery or do anything. Surgery is only if I was in a car accident. That's very expensive. But did she ever have plastic surgery on her face? Dolly Parton, please tell me. Like I said, entertainment purposes. Did she ever have facelift? To make herself look younger. And if it doesn't answer, then it doesn't answer. It says no, but there were delays. I think she didn't want to age gracefully, so there were delays. And she was depressed. So she a lack of direction. I think she might have thought of having a facelift, but she wasn't sure that she wanted it. There were a few options back in the delay and fear of she didn't want to have a facelift too much because she's scared that they would botch it up and she would look terrible like some of these people you see in Hollywood and New York and Nashville when after they get a facelift or whatever, they look terrible. So she was afraid, that they would screw it up and make a mess. She had perspective. She said, maybe I'm happy enough having my breasts look bigger, and she didn't want to change. And she wanted to improve her looks, but not enough. Maybe she went for the, the puncture thing where they do acupuncture. I think she did that, sacrifice, a new rebirth. I think rebirth is like, maybe she did have, those things where they do acupuncture for her face. I think she did that. But I don't think she went underneath the nut life to get cosmetic surgery. I think she just, had some things, not a full-fledged. She felt withdrawn by the idea of going underneath the knife. Like I said, she was scared that she'd look horrible, that they would screw it up, because once you screw up, you make a mistake on a facelift, forget it. What, are you going to sue someone? Have malpractice? I don't think so. So I think she was withdrawn and didn't want to do it. So maybe she had minor things she did. I didn't say minor. I said full-fledged. Maybe she did a little work. I think she did. She didn't want to be foolish and do the whole thing. So she would be sad of getting. There was conflicts. Like I think her husband said, "No, I don't want you to have a facelift. If you want a little fixed up, that's fine. If you want, don't get a nose job. If you want your eyes done a little, if you have lines, that's fine. Or you want acupuncture, or that's fine, but not a full facelift." I think he had issues with that, and his family didn't want her to have a facelift, and there were conflicts. Yeah, and on one side, he says, I don't want you to have a facelift. Sorry, allergies. I don't want you to have a facelift because, you're a natural beauty. She was a natural beauty. She didn't need all that, facelift or work. So there were conflicts and there would be disharmony in the household if she went full-fledged facelift. So it says she did not go full-fledged facelift. She might have had a little work, but not the whole thing. He didn't go for that. He said no. He put his foot down. Dean said, "No way. I don't want you to go through the knife." All right. Did they really have an open marriage? Where she flirts, just flirting, I don't know if I consider that an open marriage. Everybody defines open marriage in a different way. To me, it means you is like Jigga Pickett Smith does. They sleep in separate rooms. They sleep in separate houses. They can fool around if they want. But I think if you flirt or you're being nice to someone, that is not cheating on someone. I don't. People might think that we agree to disagree, but, and like I said many times, this is into purposes. So did she flirt? I'm going to say that because she's a flirter. I saw her. I'm a flirter. So is she a flirter? Was she a flirter? I'll look that up first, and then I'll say, did they have an open? Was she very flirtatious? Dolly Parton. Was she very flirtatious, flirted with the guys, like thought they were hunka burning love? She yeah. Did she flirt? All right. Did she flirt? It says she was somewhat disloyal, like flirting, not full-fledged, having affairs. Maybe she thought of having affairs, but she didn't. She was disloyal in the sense of she thought of it. She didn't full-fledged cheat on him. She on this card, she was disloyal the thought of it. She talked to guys. She flirted. She was on the road a lot. She flirts with guys. Yeah, she might have betrayed him and the thought of, mentally cheating, not physically cheating. So she might have done that because she was alone a lot and there was cheating. Maybe she thought he was, I'm going to look that up. There was cheating gossip. There was gossiping that she might have cheated on him. There might have been some cheating, flirting. People might take that as cheating if you flirt with someone, calling them a hunk. Say, oh, you have nice tush or whatever. People might consider, people gossiped about her about having their marriage being open. They were disorganization, lost failure. There was some failure in their marriage. I think they had bumps in the road, like I said, and they had to plan to be together because she was on the road a lot. So they had to plan to be together. Otherwise, the marriage would have not lasted as long. And there were changes, when you get older, time goes by, she was, when they got married, she was in her 20s, 30s, 40s. Her career took off. Country music. She became an actress. 9 to 5. She was in Steel Magnolia. She was in a great movie. She was in one with what was it? She was in the last what was that thing with Burt Reynolds? The last something horror show. That was a terrible musical movie. Anyway, changes. She had freedom. She was on her own a lot without her husband. She had fast pace. So yeah, the fast pace. Changing. She traveled a lot for her job and for entertainment. Being in a singer, an actress. She was attracted to men. Hey, she was only human. She was attracted to men. That's, she was attracted to men. She was human. She's a human heterosexual person, woman. She loved men. She thought they were cute. She didn't hide her feelings. All right. Misfortune. Maybe she was worried that if she did cheat, she would lose money and she would, be in the doghouse. She'd be in the National Choir. They would get divorced. I don't know if they had a prenup. I don't know. Oh boy, there was some in the marriage. They had some They were a freedom dismantlement. They were separate. For a long time they were separate. So she had a chance of cheating, even though she just flirted with but she was detached with him, overcoming, reclaiming power. She liked to be the one in control, empowering this in her marriage. That's the devil in reverse in one card. She liked having freedom in her marriage. She liked to, flirt with the guys and, hang out with them and, joke around. So, there was she was detached to her husband sometimes because long period of time to be without your husband. Yeah, I'm going to ask 3 cards on, head in the clouds. She dreamed of her husband, but she also dreamed of other guys. In her head, in the kind of hopeless in dreams. She wanted to be with her husband. Blood ties. She thought of her family was very important. Her husband, her brothers and sisters' family. She was exhausted though. Traveling all over the world can tire you out. So she needed the time to be with her husband when he was alive and her family. So she got exhausted very easily. As you got old, when you get older, especially when before he died. All right, I'm gonna ask. Did she die from cancer? I'm gonna ask. Did she really die from cancer? I'm gonna look that up. Did she really die from cancer? Like I said, entertainment purposes. Did she really die from cancer? Did she die from cancer? Did she die from cancer? Dolly, did you die from cancer? Yeah, her health was bad. She tried to be courage and independent person. After he died, she was really independent. She tried to work sometimes, but not all the time. And she tried to be with her nieces and nephews as because they were older. And she tried to be with them, and she tried to be with and try to find joy in her life, even though she had, she tried to put up a good front saying that she had cancer, but she was trying to put up a good front. Yeah, it says she was unfulfilled with love. I think she missed her husband a lot because when he died, it took a very void for me. So I think that partly is the reason why she died was that she missed him. You know, she had a broken heart. I think she had a broken heart. Not just the cancer got to her. I think she loved her husband and she missed him, and she died of a broken heart too. Besides the cancer. Um, and she was connected to him. She was very connected to her husband, even though she flirted with men and she wouldn't really want to hurt him. She was connected to him, so she did love him. She tried one more time to live a long time because of her cancer and her illness and her missing her husband. Fear to change, fear of loss. She lost her husband. He died, and I'm not sure if he died of a heart attack or what his story is, a cancer or something. But she missed him and she lost him, fear of loss, because she lost him, less than a year before she died. So she was very sad when he died. She missed him greatly. She was his rock and vice versa. They really put a hand, they were with each other for almost over 60 years. 70 years or something like that, a bunch of decades. So she missed him. She loved him. She was sad by him. She feared change. I think she was fearful that her health was getting worse. She was feared to change her health getting, and it was hard work going on these medications. It does a toll on your body. Her health. It was having problems with her health. Responsibility, doing the routine by always taking the medicine at the same time, or do acupuncture, all these different things for cancer, radiation, and stuff. All right, three more cards, please, to tell us. She was a natural leader. She liked to help people. She liked to do help children with the books, charity work, and she did the big picture, and she was very mature for her age. Even when she was young, she was mature. And she wished come true. She wanted wishes come true for people who couldn't buy books and couldn't she gave people, all the kids, scholarships for school and books for kids from 0 to reading, and one book more. Yeah. Mentally clarity. She had breakthroughs. She had to go through some surgery. I think she did some surgery because she was sick with cancer. So she did do some surgery. Maybe she went to. She had to go radiation or do some surgery to take something out of her. So she had to take a surgery from the cancer. So she had to get something taken out. All right. You want us to ask me one more thing, Dolly Parton, before I say goodbye? Dolly, can you tell us one more thing you want us to know about you? Because you were a great person. And always love you. All right, Dolly Parton. Anything else you want us to know? Maybe I'll do another Dolly Parton in the future. We'll see. Because she's great. So anything else, Dolly, before I say goodbye? I'll just do 3. She had a difficult decisions to leave the planet because she wasn't really wanting to leave. She wanted to stay. She made views a few weeks before she died, and said she wanted to stay on this earth. She wasn't ready to leave. She wanted to stay. It was a difficult decision. She was weighing her options. She didn't really want to leave the airplane. She wasn't ready. Even though she was 80 and her health was getting worse, she was not ready to leave. I think she was in denial. She wanted to stay on the planet. So Dolly, you weren't ready to leave. She was deadlocked decision. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to have to leave. She didn't want to make the decision of leaving. She had no choice. There was a body, but she didn't want to. She wasn't ready to leave, poor thing. She had courage. She tried to be courage. And she was, like I said, she was very independent. You know, she didn't want to leave the planet. She wanted to do some work for the children and her family and people, you know. Even though she probably retired from music, she still wanted to do other things in her life. She wanted to do joyous things with some more joy things to do before she left. She wanted to do more stuff. Fruits of labor. She worked really hard, you know, before she died, you know, even though, you know, she lived till she was 80, which is good. A lot of people don't even make it to 80, so she worked really hard for her money, and, you know, she rested the best she could after. You know, she worked hard, and she made a lot of money being a singer and actress and giving money to charity for children and other people. So yeah, and she was also for the gays too, which is great in my book. So yeah, she wasn't ready to pass on, which is sad. Yeah, she, like in an interview, she said she's not ready to go. She wasn't ready to die. Dolly Parton was not ready to die. She wanted to live and more live. So it's sad because I'm a big Dolly Parton song, you know. Here it goes again. Here it comes again. So into my next video, take care and take care. Bye.